There are stories in Hollywood you never see on screen. The ones that aren't in the script don't show up on the red carpet, and are certainly never mentioned at the award shows. But sometimes, someone dares to break the silence. And this time, that someone is Mel Gibson. In a rare interview, he didn't just talk about his old friend Val Kilmer. He revealed a chilling truth about why Val really disappeared from Hollywood. And it wasn't because of age. It wasn't because of illness. It was because he escaped something that so many others remain trapped in: the dark side of Hollywood. If this story made you think, or if it truly touched your heart, don't forget to leave a comment with 1 if you resonate with Mel Gibson, Val Kilmer, or feel connected to this emotional journey, or 0 if you see things differently. Make sure to like and share so your friends can follow along with this story too. No goodbye, no scandal, no warning. You just vanish from the spotlight. And that's exactly what happened to Val Kilmer. He didn't fade away. He disappeared, like the final magic trick of a master illusionist. For years, people wondered what really happened. Now, Mel Gibson is finally speaking out, and the truth is darker and more complicated than anyone expected. I've got a creature for us. It's been a while. Oh, you look amazing. Val Kilmer, dressed like a warrior, wearing a cloak, in his final post on Instagram before he passed. But here's the thing. Val Kilmer was never just an average actor. He was the youngest person ever accepted into Juilliard, classically trained in theater with undeniable raw talent. He was charming, intense, and had that unmistakable Hollywood glow. Casting directors loved him. Sure, he had a bit of an ego, but when you're starring in blockbuster hits like Top Secret, Top Gun, The Doors, and Tombstone, you've earned that confidence. His performance as Jim Morrison was so convincing, fans genuinely believed he was Morrison. And when he suited up as Batman in Batman Forever in 1995, Val wasn't just another actor anymore. He was at the peak of A-list stardom. But right after Batman Forever, something strange happened. When it came time to shoot the next Batman film, Batman and Robin, Val was nowhere to be found. There was no big announcement, no dramatic exit. He was simply replaced by George Clooney. And no one explained why. Just silence. Years later, director Joel Schumacher finally addressed it in an interview. And let's just say, he didn't hold back. He called Val a psychopath, complained about overpaid, spoiled actors, and even said he prayed he'd never have to work with Val again. Schumacher said Kilmer didn't speak to him for 2 weeks. He called it bliss. But this is where things get murky. Since when does being difficult get someone completely erased from Hollywood? Let's be real. Plenty of actors have thrown tantrums, cursed out crew members, even thrown things on set. And they still win Oscars. They still land blockbuster roles. According to Mel Gibson, the real reason is that Val refused to play by Hollywood's unspoken rules. He didn't schmooze the right people. He challenged power. He questioned the system. And in a world where the powerful expect loyalty and silence, Val stood out. And not in a good way. Hollywood doesn't always punish bad behavior, but it does punish those who don't stick to the script. And Val Kilmer, he didn't just rewrite the script, he threw it out entirely. Then came the whispers, the kind that don't make headlines but follow you like a shadow, the kind that can end a career without anyone ever saying your name. That's what happened to Val Kilmer. He didn't just stop landing big roles. He was quietly blacklisted. But completely. And he knew it. In a brutally honest and raw interview, Val didn't sugarcoat anything. When asked if people found him hard to work with, he chuckled a little and replied, "But do you think people found it hard to work with you?" Because, yeah, which one is the difficult past? Impossible? Impossible. Yeah, I kind of got blacklisted. I didn't get work at any studio for 15 years. So you kind of feel like you're being banned, right? Not in a way that, yeah, I think so. But Val Kilmer isn't angry with Hollywood anymore. He's thought it through, honestly and vulnerably. He admits that he used to speak out too much, complain too often, and didn't fully understand the business he was in. He thought it was all about the art. He thought that passion for the work was enough. "I had ideas, he said. I projected my insecurities onto the business." He even joked about having an evil twin, one who might have caused him more trouble than once. He doesn't blame others, he blames himself. Because I didn't play the game, because I wasn't obedient or grateful enough. I was open about very specific things about the art, but it's a business, and I acted as if it wasn't. Because you're a dumb actor. I am a dumb actor. I complained a lot when I was younger. I didn't appreciate the business that gave me a lifestyle I quickly grew fond of. Very quickly. I starred in my first movie. I was the lead in the first play I ever did professionally. But let's narrow it down, because Val's story isn't just about a fallen actor. It's part of a larger, stranger pattern. By the late 90s, things started to look suspicious. Kilmer faded from the spotlight around 1998 to 1999. But he wasn't alone. Mel Gibson, Wesley Snipes, Brendan Fraser. They all started to disappear. Mel, once the king of the box office, suddenly couldn't get a film studio to return his calls, unless he paid for the movie himself. Wesley, he was thrown in jail for tax issues, blamed on his accountant. Brendan Fraser, he disappeared after speaking out about being assaulted. A coincidence? The internet doesn't think so. And honestly, it's hard not to notice this pattern. Even Mel Gibson started connecting the dots. In a 1998 interview, he admitted that he started feeling paranoid, like something was wrong. "There's a lot of things I can't understand," he said. No one could explain it. The Hollywood he described started to resemble one of those eerie saloons in old Western films, where the moment a stranger walks in, everyone goes silent. They stare at you. He spoke as if they were warning you, "Don't go into that house on the hill." He told himself he was crazy for imagining all of this, but many years later, he realized he wasn't paranoid. He was right. And then came 1999, a year almost cursed. Stanley Kubrick released Eyes Wide Shut, a film filled with masks, secret societies, and hidden truths. A film that, honestly, felt like a direct metaphor for the dark side of Hollywood. And just before the final cut was completed, Kubrick died. Not just died, but died suddenly. There were rumors that 25 minutes of the film were mysteriously cut after his death. What was in those lost minutes? No one knows. But guess what else happened in 1999? Val Kilmer disappeared from the A-list radar. It's hard not to connect the dots. And when talking about masks, think about it. Kilmer's Batman wasn't flashy or confident. He was cold, obsessed. A man wearing a mask not just for justice, but to hide from something. Strange. And maybe it wasn't just acting. Maybe Kilmer was trying to tell us something. And understand, he wasn't just an actor. He was documenting his own truth. For many years. He recorded everything, family videos, behind-the-scenes moments, even quiet scenes, as if he knew that one day he might need evidence, receipts, proof. In his 2021 documentary, Val, you can feel the weight of it. "I have thousands of hours of videotapes and film that I've shot throughout my life and career," he says. And then, there's a haunting line that lingers like a ghost in the room. "Turn off the video camera," he calmly responds. "I'll keep it on until we rehearse." It wasn't just a refusal, it was a resistance. Watching the film is like witnessing someone trying not to be erased from memory, from history. And this is when things take a chilling turn. By the time Kilmer began to fade from the spotlight, a dark cloud hung over Hollywood. The kind of cloud that whispered about flights, blacklists, and an island no one wanted to name, but everyone recognized. It was a strange time. Kilmer's slow disappearance almost perfectly coincided with the rise of the Epstein shadow. Did he turn down any invitations? Did he say the wrong thing at the wrong time? Or did he simply not play the game the way others had? No one can be certain. But the pattern is there. Too many names vanished from the radar during that era, and too many of them have one thing in common. They didn't stay silent. Now, to help you better understand this, let's go back to 2015. That's when the script for Sound of Freedom was first written, a film based on the real-life work of former Homeland Security agent Tim Ballard. The film focuses on rescuing children from the trafficking ring. Filming wrapped up in 2018. You'd think with a subject like this it would be a major release from the studio, right? But no. The film was tossed around like a hot potato. No one wanted to touch it. It sat dormant for 5 years. Why? This is when things start to get suspicious. Originally, it was supposed to be released by 20th Century Fox. But in 2019, Disney swooped in and bought Fox, along with the rights to Sound of Freedom. And what did they do with it? They locked it away. They buried it. For what reason? A movie about rescuing children. That's when people started to take notice of the whole situation. Why would a company known for its fairy tales bury a film like this? Then came Mel Gibson, the outcast of Hollywood. Always loud, always controversial, but also the one who has pointed out the dark side of the industry for decades. Since the late 90s, Mel has made some cryptic comments, sometimes chaotic, sometimes too real, about the darkness in the entertainment world, which he once described as a quirky small town where everyone knows the secret, but no one talks about it. One of the most troubling things he ever shared was about a famous producer. He didn't name names, but this person was reportedly the one who said that women in films should either be naked or dead. Either one is fine. Mel didn't just react, he exposed it. Over the years, he's spoken out about how the industry treats women, exploits children, and protects predators. So, when Sound of Freedom was finally released independently, Mel's vocal support wasn't just about public relations, it was personal. And then, the unexpected happened. If Val Kilmer's story shocks you, don't stay silent. Like the video to spread the truth. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next revelations about the dark side of Hollywood. And leave a comment below. What do you really think happened to Val Kilmer? This controversial independent film, made with a budget of $14 million, has grossed nearly $100 million worldwide. The support from a vast audience, the endless word of mouth. But guess what? Mainstream media has remained completely silent. Or worse, openly hostile media outlets like CNN, Rolling Stone, and The Guardian. not only ignoring it but dragging it through the mud, calling it a conspiracy bait. No in-depth analysis, no honest criticism. It's not just about the film anymore. It's about what it represents. While Mel Gibson has struggled to stay in the game, his pitch for Lethal Weapon 5, calling it the best script of the entire series, was ready, written, but no one wanted to make it. Even he admits he doesn't understand why. But let's be honest. Maybe it's not about the script. Maybe it's about his name. The risk, the baggage, the overly controversial label. And that's when the frustration sets in. Because let's face it, there are people in Hollywood who've done far worse, yet still welcomed back as if nothing ever happened. So why not him? It's interesting that there have been a few voices supporting Mel. Robert Downey Jr., the king of comebacks, has defended Mel during his toughest times. More recently, Andrew Garfield also spoke up for him, especially when promoting Hacksaw Ridge, directed by Mel. Garfield even said, "Everyone deserves a second, third, even fourth chance." But for Mel, that chance seems to remain in limbo. It could be politics, it could be power, or it could be a system that punishes some while protecting others. Whatever the reason, Mel and Kilmer share one thing in common. They were both loud, even when staying silent would have been safer. And perhaps, just perhaps, that's why they were pushed out of the spotlight. Now, things are getting darker. Mel Gibson begins to hint at something deeper, more sinister behind Val Kilmer's fading star in Hollywood. He doesn't say that Val lost his edge. He doesn't say that Val weakened because of illness. No. Mel is implying that Kilmer knew all too well. The true cost of fame in Tinseltown isn't just hard work or talent, it's your soul. And Val, he wouldn't sign that mental lease. He wouldn't play the puppet for an industry that demands silence in exchange for success. According to Mel, Val saw behind the curtain. And he asked the wrong questions, stepping on the toes of people he shouldn't have. And so, the opportunities dried up. We're talking about a man who went from blockbuster icon to a media ghost. Projects disappeared. Directors who once called him a genius suddenly stopped answering his calls. Studios acted as though he didn't exist. The media, always hungry for a headline, flipped the script on him. Suddenly, he was no longer brilliant. He was difficult, shallow, selfish. The story was twisted, turned into something more palatable for the public. Val wasn't silenced. He just stepped back. But Mel painted a different picture, one that sounds more like exile than retirement. He believes Val Kilmer was pushed out, not because of cancer, not because of age, but because he didn't play by the unwritten rules. The same shady system that Mel has criticized for years, accused of turning its back on Kilmer for refusing to comply. And now, people are starting to connect the dots. Is it really about ego, or is it about exposure? Did Kilmer's refusal to stay silent make him a threat? Because here's the thing. When he returned to the screen in Top Gun, Maverick, fans saw it as a triumphant comeback. But if you look at that scene now, you'll realize it's not really a comeback. It feels more like a goodbye, a gentle and heartbreaking farewell. The voice you hear during the emotional exchange with Tom Cruise isn't even his real voice. It was patched together with artificial intelligence, old recordings, and sheer willpower. Val wanted to perform the scenes he needed to, but physically, he was fighting an invisible battle just to make it through each day on set. Behind the camera, It was brutal. Every day of filming drained him. Every line of dialogue was a mountain to climb. It wasn't just about throat cancer anymore. Now, everything was. His body was rebelling, and his spirit was struggling, but just enough to keep going. And then, after Maverick, Val went silent. Too silent. He stopped responding to interviews, stopped attending events, completely disappeared from the public eye. Most people assumed he was just enjoying peace, perhaps finally relaxing after decades under the spotlight. But that wasn't the case. He wasn't relaxing. He was slowly and painfully disappearing, quietly. His friends began to notice. The first calls went unanswered. Messages were left on read or never sent at all. Some people hadn't seen him for months. Even his family didn't know much. But no one pushed too hard. He was Val Kilmer. After everything, the mysterious artist, the man who once turned solitude into an art form. People thought it was just Val being Val. But this wasn't the man who chose loneliness. This was someone who was slipping away. And then on April 1st, the world woke up to the news of his death. Many hoped it was just an April Fool's joke, a twisted hoax. But it wasn't. Val Kilmer was gone. The official cause was pneumonia. But if you know Hollywood, you'll know that pneumonia is their preferred euphemism. It's a natural cause that seems to appear too often. Kim Porter, Heavy D, Andre Harrell, all reportedly died from heart attacks or pneumonia. But the whispers behind the scenes tell a different story. Let's talk about Kim Porter for a second. Diddy's ex. She too died from pneumonia. At least, that's what they said. But did you know the initial doctor's report from the coroner concluded it was a homicide? They found toxins in her system. Not enough to scream foul play, but enough to raise an eyebrow. Andre Harrell, same story. Heart attack, but no prior warning signs. Then there's Heavy D, found face down, dying suddenly. It's like there's a script, a convenient exit plan for those who are too loud or too close to something they shouldn't be touching. So, when Val's autopsy results came in, people started to look a little closer. Yes, he had cancer. That's public knowledge. But the report went into more detail than just illness. It painted a picture of a man who was deteriorating. He had persistent infections from old surgeries that hadn't healed. His body showed signs of severe malnutrition, muscle atrophy, pain, and it wasn't just physical, but emotional as well. He had been using strong prescription painkillers, the kind you don't take unless you're living in constant pain. Not enough to overdose, but enough to show that this man was quietly suffering. Some of those infections could have been treated. The coroner noted that. But they weren't treated, because Val didn't ask for help. He didn't speak up. He didn't let anyone in. The same man who once lit up the screen, now sitting in the dark, fighting a silent battle. No one could see it. He had children, diaries, paintings. But he also isolated himself even more, perhaps preparing for the end. And then, there's the video of Batman. Just days before he passed, he posted a tribute, a moment that fans now see with new eyes. He looked frail, but there was something peaceful in his expression. Something final. "I have an animal for us," he said, his voice soft. His distant eyes, it had been a long time since he smiled. But now that clip feels like a goodbye, a farewell wrapped in nostalgia, like the last page of a book we didn't realize had ended. A man who was once a legend leaving in silence. No scandal, no explosion, no glamorous ending. Just a light fading away in the dark. And maybe, just maybe, that's how he wanted to be remembered. Kilmer wasn't just a movie star. He was a whistleblower in disguise, a man who wore a cape on screen but carried a heavy burden off screen. He dared to say no in an industry built on sycophants. He questioned the things you weren't allowed to question. He stepped back, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. Because silence, in his case, might have been the only shield left. And if Val Kilmer was blacklisted for speaking out, what does that say about those who remain silent? Others made that deal. Others traded truth for survival. Perhaps for Kilmer, silence wasn't weakness, but strategy. Perhaps it was the only form of protection he had left. A way to keep his soul intact while the machine tried to crush him. And now, we must bear the consequences. A loss heavier than we expected. An unfinished goodbye. Val Kilmer didn't just disappear. He withdrew. Not because he had nothing left to say, but because there were too many things that couldn't be said aloud. And now, as the pieces begin to fall into place, we start to see more clearly. This is not just the story of a movie star, but a warning about a system that can consume even the brightest souls. If this has made you think, don't let it stop here. Like the video to share Val Kilmer's story with more people. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to follow the next installments, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. And leave a comment below. What do you think really happened? Thank you for watching. And don't forget, light only exists when someone dares to point out the darkness. See you in the next video.